Joe Biden stepped down, it would be at the full moon. I don't think Kamala Harris is going to be the winner, no. My prediction that I made July 2022, that Trump will indeed be the next president of the United States.
This is an India Today Global exclusive. I have a very interesting personality joining me today. It's Amy Tripp, an astrologer who exactly predicted when US President Joe Biden will be stepping away from the presidential elections and giving way to Kamala Harris.
I would tell them to put in Kamala Harris ASAP. Her transits are going to be much better than Joe Biden's transits on the night of the election.
Or for that matter, any other person from the Democratic Party. She also has, interestingly, forecasted that Donald Trump could be the next US president. Amy, thank you so much for joining us here on the network.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, your predictions are making the rounds. It's a buzz.
Joe Biden has 4 planets in Scorpio, so it's really going to take a lot for him to drop out of this race. Scorpio has a hard time letting go. It's a fixed sign.
Across networks, across various countries. So first tell us, how are you doing it? What's your methodology when it comes to astrology? What are the signs that you're looking at? What's the method that you use? And then we'll get into the real deep US election questions on who, what, how of it.
Okay, yeah. So the method I use is I look at birth charts of people, so I know their date, time, and place of birth. And through looking at their birth charts, I can see how planets that are in the sky today affect the planets that they have in their chart when they were born. So that allows me to make predictions because it shows energy that is coming or going. And I can look within ephemeris and find exact dates. So that's how I do predictions, by essentially looking at the transiting planets to someone's birth chart.
Okay, so you did prophesy that Joe Biden, who's 81 years old, will be stepping down on the 11th of July?
Yeah, the 21st.
The 21st, yes. How are you so exact with your dates?
Well, I knew that if Joe Biden stepped down, it would be at the full moon, because the full moon was at 29 degrees Capricorn, and 29 degrees is the last degree of any sign and always shows a finality, closure, or a peak of that energy. And Capricorn is the sign of institutions, the government, and old age. So I put the two together, and at the full moon is when things are revealed or something you hadn't seen comes to light. So I kind of just intuited that at the full moon, July 21st, he would step down for those reasons.
Okay, and on the 11th of August, you also predicted that Kamala Harris would be the nominee for the Democratic Party.
Yes, in 2020, I predicted that because she was having her Saturn return, which happens to everyone around 60 years old and often shows an advancement of your job or some milestone in your life that's very significant and related to your career.
You are also predicting that Donald Trump could become the next US president.
Just so you know, I predicted Donald Trump was going to win the election in 2024, back in 2022.
But the polls show otherwise. What's your reading now, the latest reading? Is it changing?
No, I'm not going to change. I predicted in 2022 that Donald Trump would be president before he even entered the race. My prediction that I made July 2022, that Trump will indeed be the next president of the United States. Because I looked at his birth chart and his transits, so the energy he's having on election night is extremely, extremely lucky. So even before he was in the race, I predicted he would win. So I've gotten this far, so I'm going to keep my prediction. The polls can change, and I've looked at Kamala's chart more in depth now that she's the nominee, and she does have really excellent transits happening to her chart as well. much better than Joe Biden's. In fact, I tweeted that if I were in the Democratic Party before this happened, I would put her to the front because her transits are much better. However, I think Trump edges her out when it comes down to it. I think there will be something that kind of happens between now and election day that might swing things a little bit. I've been predicting maybe some sort of attack happening. I did in April to the U.S. or with the U.S. involvement. Now, I don't know if that will transpire or not. I could be totally wrong, but I think there might be something like that takes place. And there is a lot of tension right now with the U.S. and Israel. So I'm not sure how that will play out, but I do still think Donald Trump will be the president, and I'm going to stick with that prediction.
Well, that's a very important point that you're making. Is this a prediction about the assassination attempt, or are you saying there could be an attack on the United States of America, and is there a time frame?
Yes. So this was when I was looking at the U.S. birth chart. So even countries have birth charts. So I was looking at the U.S. birth chart and saw some things that could show unexpected, maybe violence or chaos that affected the masses, the public. And I was also looking at a cycle that ties in with 9/11. This cycle lasts through 2025. So that made me it raised my eyebrows a little bit.
If you're looking at charts and if you're looking at countries and their charts as well, how does the Israel-Hamas war really play out during these elections, and could the unrest that you're talking about be related to that? Because we have seen unrest and protests in the recent past when it comes to the actions of Israel in Gaza.
Yes, I think that what I think is there would be some sort of maybe terrorist attack or something that came maybe from the Middle East, Iran, Hezbollah, one of those groups may attack somehow the U.S. or U.S. involvement maybe overseas. I'm not really sure, but I think that's very plausible. And I said this in April, and we're in August, and we're seeing these really heavy tensions. So it is a little eerie. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong, but I think the energy is there for there to be something that's set off.
And in these elections, because we are looking at, let's look at some of the hypothetics as well. If it were not Kamala Harris and if it were Michelle Obama, would things have been different for the Democratic Party?
Oh, yeah. I think Michelle Obama would wipe the floor with Donald Trump, meaning she would win by a long shot.
Are the charts saying that clearly so? And do you see Michelle Obama in the future? Let's do a very, very specific prediction here, Amy. Is Michelle Obama going to enter politics? What do her charts say?
I can't say because I haven't looked at Michelle Obama's chart. So I can't say from an astrological standpoint what she would be doing in the future.
Okay, but if it's not Kamala Harris, it would have looked, the scenario would have been very different, right?
Right. Yeah, I think Michelle Obama said she didn't want to be president, but if she had ran, I do think she would have beat Donald Trump.
And in terms of the country, do you think America is ready for women in politics, especially as president?
Yes, I do actually. Pluto is moving into Aquarius, and that would show what's new, different, change, innovation, freedom, what's unconventional, but essentially what's new and different. So I do think America is ready, astrologically speaking, for a female president.
But not for Kamala Harris yet.
I don't think Kamala Harris is going to be the winner, no.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that from a partisan perspective. I'm saying that strictly from an astrological perspective. And this isn't my personal opinion or, either one, I would. I'm being very non-biased
No,
too.
absolutely. In 2020, you actually predicted that she will be entering the race, and that was way back. So these are just based on your numbers and charts that you're looking at. But personally, how did you really get into astrology and find this space as your calling?
It was really by accident. I never thought I would be an astrologer, or ever thought about being an astrologer. I went to college and I majored in psychology, and then I went to grad school and I received a master's in social work. So I've always been interested in human behavior and how we work and, process things. And one day I just was thinking about getting an astrology reading, and I started looking it up on Google, and they're pretty expensive to me at the time. And I thought, well, why am I going to spend this money for something that may not be real? Because I've had a tarot reading in the past and it was nothing happened.
Okay.
So I decided, I said, this looks really interesting. Let me try to learn this or a little bit and see if it's real. So I started learning, I started studying, and what the first day turned into the second day, turned into the 100th day, turned into the third year. And I just got so into it. And as I was learning, I was able to observe that things actually did happen in alignment with planetary positions. And so at that point, I could not deny that astrology was real and was like almost a cheat code for life, or very helpful to know in life. So I stuck with it, and I wanted to share what I learned with everyone else, because I thought what I learned had been so life changing that if other people knew the same thing, maybe it could be the same for them.
Okay, but can you give us instances of when you predicted a few things and it came to be right or correct?
Yes,
Just a few
I
fun
predicted
instances.
Biden would win in 2020. So I predicted the correct presidential, and most astrologer was saying Trump would win. I was one of the only ones that predicted Biden. I've predicted a lot of celebrity happenings, births. I can't think of anyone quite offhand at the moment, but I have predicted correctly things happening with celebrities, mostly because I look at current events. So celebrities, pop culture, things like that.
So you've not looked at JD Vance's charts yet?
I have looked at it, but
Is he pulling
didn't.
Trump down or is he taking Trump ahead?
I'm sorry?
Is he pulling Trump down or is he a good thing? Is he a good thing for Trump or not so good?
Personally, I think he's not a great pick for Trump because he's a Leo, and Leos want a lot of attention and like to have eyes on them and admiration and, be in front of an audience. And I don't think Trump wants anyone to overshadow him. And personally, I think it was a poor pick because of the comments that he's made in the past and the backlash he's receiving for it now. I think that has really hurt Trump in the polls.
Looking at the charts, you don't see him hurt Trump and Trump's chances at all.
No, I think he'll stay as vice president.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, let's just do a few quick questions then with you. We have a few specific questions, and you've been looking at the charts of these people for sure. So let's start with, is there a potential of Kamala Harris becoming president even before the presidential race? Why I ask this is that because a lot of people are saying that President Biden should step down. Will he step down? Will there be a health issue? Can Kamala Harris become president even before the presidential elections?
I don't think so, no. Just based on her birth chart, I don't see her coming into more prominence, well, now, but I don't see her taking a leadership position. If she were to, it would be later in the year.
And do you think Biden will step down before the end of his term?
No, I don't.
It's okay. So both the questions and answers align. Do you think the elections will be contested? We saw a lot of violence last time around, a lot of contestation. Do you think it will be contested this time around as well?
I think there's a very good chance the night of the election, Mars will be opposite Pluto, and this is a transit that is extremely important. It can show power struggles, domination by one person over another, resistance, even sometimes it's an indicator of violence. It's one of the two planets I track moving together to time violence. So I think there could be some resistance to the results and power struggles that come from that and potential unrest.
Do you expect, so you do expect violence and rioting this time around also?
I don't know if there will be rioting, but I do expect for tensions to be very high. Also, Mars opposite Pluto can indicate criminal behavior, doing things secretively, underhanded. So potentially there could be some rumors around rigging the election. I'm not sure exactly how it will manifest. I just know what the energy is going to feel like. How it manifests can sometimes be differently. So let me give you an example. I did a prediction when Donald Trump was sentenced for July 12th to go to jail. And I looked at the chart and I was like, oh my gosh, there's going to be violence this day. This is going to be very chaotic. So knowing the situation, like I thought it would play out, that he would be in court, I assumed that maybe violence would occur or unrest because he was convicted. Well, his date got pushed back. But what happened July 11th or 12th was there was an attempted assassination. So there was unexpected violence. It just manifested in a different way than I thought.
Will President Trump then be sentenced before November 5th?
No, I don't think so. I see him, he has a very lucky transit coming up, and it will be pretty much exact or at its peak on election night. I don't see him going to jail. I see him winning, and then I see him pardoning himself. Most of you know, I predicted Donald Trump was going to win the election in 2024, back in 2022.
The biggest challenges that you see or predict for the new president of the United States of America, according to you, it would be Trump. So what would his biggest challenge be?
I think the biggest challenge is going to be the economy. And I say that because there is a transit going on that would show potential economic issues and a lot of attention being paid to the economy and money, inflation, things like that.
Okay, and finally, before I let you go, just a fun Bollywood question, Hollywood question, sorry. Wanted to know if there are any big personalities you know whose charts align with either the Harris camp or the Trump camp who'd be endorsing either side.
I think Taylor Swift will endorse Kamala Harris.
Okay. On that note, Amy Tripp, thank you so much for all your predictions. We might come back to you should your predictions prove to be correct on how correct and accurate you've been on your predictions when it comes to the US elections. Amy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.